What if I told you that everything you've heard about the sudden push to impeach Kristi Noem is a lie? Not a mistake. Not a misunderstanding. A lie. What if I told you that the headlines screaming about accountability and ethics are just the paint on top of a rusty, dangerous trap? A trap that wasn't set for a governor in South Dakota. It wasn't even set for the Republican Party. It was set for you. Because right now, while the media has you focused on a dog, or a book tour, or a state-level scandal, the real game is being played in the dark corridors of Washington, D.C. And the stakes? The stakes aren't just a governorship. The stakes are the control of the United States border, the survival of the Homeland Security apparatus, and the ultimate leverage play against Donald Trump. Most people look at the news and see chaos. They see random events. They see a governor in trouble. But insiders? We see a pattern. We see a playbook. And once you see the strings, you can never unsee the puppet master. By the time you finish this video, you aren't just going to understand why Democratic House leaders are suddenly talking about impeachment. You are going to understand how power really works in the post-truth era. You're going to understand the transaction, the cold, hard trade that is being proposed behind closed doors, the head of a red state governor in exchange for the protection of a federal secretary. It sounds insane, doesn't it? A state impeachment tied to a federal firing? That's not how the Constitution works. That's not how the law works. But that is how power works. But before we start, subscribe, leave your like, and comment which state you're watching from. Now let's go back to Noem. Let's start with the noise. If you open your phone right now, or turn on the cable news networks, which, let's be honest, fewer and fewer of you are doing every day because you smell the rot, you'll see a very specific narrative forming around Kristi Noem. You'll hear about controversy. You'll hear about unfit for office. You'll hear the moral outrage machine spinning up its gears to maximum velocity. But you have to ask yourself the most dangerous question in politics. Why now? Why suddenly is there a coordinated, mobilized effort to remove a sitting governor who, just 6 months ago, was being touted as the heir apparent to the MAGA movement? Did she change overnight? Did new information drop from the sky? Or did the battlefield shift? Here is the reality that the talking heads won't touch. We are witnessing a bank shot. In pool, you don't aim at the pocket. You aim at the cushion to hit the ball into the pocket. In this case, Kristi Noem is the cushion. Reports are leaking out. Whispers are turning into shouts. That party leadership has drawn a line in the sand. They have signaled that they are willing to move forward with impeachment proceedings against Noem. But here is the kicker. Here is the detail that should make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. The condition. The quid pro quo. They aren't just saying, impeach her because she did something wrong. They are saying, explicitly or implicitly, that this machinery stops if Donald Trump and the Republican ecosystem back off the Homeland Security Secretary. Pause. Let that sink in. Since when does the fate of a South Dakota governor hinge on the employment status of a federal cabinet member? Since now. This is the new era of total war politics. The silos are gone. There is no state politics and federal politics anymore. There is only the narrative and the leverage. To understand this, you have to understand what Kristi Noem represents. She isn't just a politician. To the Democratic leadership and to the establishment wing of Washington, she is a symbol. She represents the defiant, state-level resistance to federal overreach. She was the one who kept her state open. She was the one who sent National Guard troops to the southern border when the federal government refused to act. That was her sin. Not a story in a book. Not a bad interview. Her sin was challenging the monopoly of force held by the Department of Homeland Security. When she deployed state resources to the border, She embarrassed the DHS. She exposed the vacuum of leadership. And in Washington, you can be corrupt, you can be incompetent, you can be wrong, but you can never, ever be embarrassing to the system. So the system waits. It keeps a file. It waits for a moment of weakness. And when that moment comes, when the blood is in the water, they don't just attack. They negotiate. I want to take you inside the room where these decisions are made. I've spoken to sources, people who have worked on the Hill, people who understand the dark mechanics of the whip count. They call this the squeeze. Here is how it works. You don't attack your enemy's strongest point. You find their knight. In chess, the knight is dangerous because it moves in ways that are hard to predict. It can jump over other pieces. Kristi Noem has been the knight for the Trump movement. She is telegenic, she is aggressive, and she has executive power. But the opposition has a problem. They have a bishop that is under attack. The Homeland Security Secretary. The Republicans have been relentless. They have held hearings. They have drafted articles of impeachment at the federal level. They have hammered the DHS Secretary for the open border, for the fentanyl crisis, for the absolute collapse of sovereignty at the Rio Grande. The Democrats need to save their bishop, but they don't have the votes to stop the messaging war. They are losing the argument on the border. Every day, more videos come out. Every day, the polling shifts. The American people, you, are seeing the reality with your own eyes, and the old, racist, label isn't working anymore to silence you. So, they need a distraction. And they need a hostage. Enter the Noem impeachment push. By initiating a high-profile, scandal-ridden impeachment process against a top Trump surrogate, they achieve three things instantly. 1. Media saturation. They flood the zone. Instead of CNN talking about the 10,000 illegal crossings yesterday, they are talking about Noem. The oxygen is sucked out of the room. 2. Moral equivalence. They create a both sides narrative. Sure, the DHS secretary might be incompetent, but look at the Republican governor. She's corrupt. It muddies the waters. It gives the low-information voter a reason to tune out both sides. 3. The trade. This is the most cynical part. They signal to Trump's orbit, "We can make this very painful for your VP contender. We can drag this out through the election. We can ruin her future. Or maybe the pressure on the DHS secretary eases up. Maybe the hearings stop. Maybe we call a truce." It is extortion. Plain and simple. But to sell extortion to the public, you need a story. You need a villain. And that is where the manufactured consent comes in. Have you noticed how the attacks on Noem shifted? For years, the attacks were policy-based. She's too conservative. She hates masks. She loves guns. Standard partisan bickering. But recently, the tone changed. It became personal. It became visceral. They stopped attacking her policies and started attacking her character. Why the shift? Because policy debates are boring. Policy debates don't go viral on TikTok. Policy debates don't destroy careers overnight. But scandal? Scandal is a weapon of mass destruction. The insider term for this is op research dumping. Every political party keeps a vault of dirt on their opponents. They sit on it. They wait. They don't release it when they find it. They release it when they need it. The fact that these stories about Noem are dominating this cycle right now tells you that the opposition was desperate. They emptied the vault. They needed something big enough to counter the border crisis narrative. Think about the timing. The border is consistently polling as the #1 issue for American voters. Not just Republicans, independents, and Democrats too. The current administration is bleeding support. The DHS secretary is the face of that failure. If Trump fires the DHS secretary, or forces his resignation through pressure, it is a total victory for the populist right. It validates every criticism. It proves the system failed. The establishment cannot allow that validation. They cannot allow the public to feel that people power worked. So, they need to sacrifice Noem. They need to turn her into a pariah so that if Trump defends her, he looks bad. And if he abandons her, he looks weak. It is a classic double bind. But here is where they messed up. Here is where the smartest people in the room outsmarted themselves. They assume that you, the audience, the voter, the citizen, are still playing by the old rules. They assume that if the New York Times says, "Be angry at Noem," you will immediately be angry. They didn't account for the fact that the trust is gone. They didn't account for the fact that you have seen this movie before. Remember the Russia collusion narrative? Remember the laptop denial? Remember the safe and effective slogans? You have been trained by years of gaslighting to look for the lie. And when you see a coordinated, sudden, fierce push to impeach a governor over issues that seem, let's say, disproportionate to the national crisis, your alarm bells start ringing. You start asking, what are they hiding? Let's drill down into the specific mechanics of this. Impeachment for firing. Trade. The prompt for this situation, the rumor swirling in D.C., is that Democratic leadership said they would move forward with proceedings if Trump does not fire the Homeland Security Secretary. Wait. Read that backwards. Usually, you impeach someone to get them fired. Here, they are threatening to impeach Person A. Noem, unless Person B., DHS Secretary, is fired? Or perhaps, they are threatening to impeach Noem to prevent the firing? Let's look at the most likely scenario, the one the insiders are betting on. The scenario is mutually assured destruction. The Republicans threaten to impeach the DHS Secretary, Mayorkas or similar figure, for dereliction of duty. The evidence is the open border. The Democrats counter. If you go after our guy for policy differences, we will go after your rising star, Noem, for ethical violations. They are holding Noem hostage to protect the DHS Secretary. It's a protection racket. Nice governor you have there. Shame if something happened to her reputation. You want her safe? Back off our guy at Homeland Security. Why is the DHS Secretary so important to them? Why go to the mat for a bureaucrat? Because the DHS Secretary is the gatekeeper. As long as the current leadership is in place at DHS, the policy of managed decline at the border continues. If that secretary falls and is replaced, or if the impeachment succeeds and exposes the internal communications, the entire house of cards collapses. They are terrified of discovery. If the DHS secretary is impeached and put on trial in the Senate, evidence comes out. Emails come out. Directives to Border Patrol to stand down come out. The coordination with NGOs to facilitate migration comes out. They cannot afford a trial of the DHS secretary. It would be the trial of the century. It would expose the entire NGO government complex that is profiting from the border crisis. So, they need a distraction so big, so loud, and so ugly that the Republicans lose their nerve. They need to make the Republicans afraid of their own shadows. They need to say, if you weaponize impeachment against us, we will weaponize it against you, and we have the media on our side. Kristi Noem is the sacrificial lamb on the altar of the open border. To understand how abnormal this is, we have to look at history. Impeachment used to be the nuclear option. It was the break glass in case of emergency tool. It was reserved for treason, for bribery, for high crimes. Now, it's a press release. But look at the targets. Who gets targeted? Outsiders. Disruptors. People who don't play the game. When was the last time you saw a push to impeachment against a collaborative, establishment Republican? It doesn't happen. Because those people are useful. They are part of the ecosystem. Noem, for all her flaws, positioned herself as a disruptor. She challenged the COVID narrative. She challenged the border narrative. And in Washington, you are allowed to be wrong, but you are not allowed to be right too early. If you are right too early, you embarrass the experts. And the experts have long memories. The push to impeach her is not about justice. If it were about justice, half of Washington would be in handcuffs right now. We know this. You know this. This is about discipline. It is a message to every other governor in a red state. It is a message to Abbott in Texas. It is a message to DeSantis in Florida. Look what we are doing to Noem. We are dragging her through the mud. We are digging up her past. We are turning her own state against her. If you continue to challenge federal authority on the border, you are next. It is a chilling effect. They want the other governors to look at Noem and say, I don't want that trouble. I'll just keep my head down. I'll take the federal money. I won't send the guard. This is how they control the map without winning elections. They rule by fear. They rule by lawfare. But something is happening that they didn't predict. The turn. In storytelling, the turn is when the plot reverses. The hero is down, the villain is laughing, and then the hero finds a loose stone in the wall. The loose stone here is oversaturation. The public is becoming numb to the outrage cycle. When everything is a crisis, nothing is a crisis. When everyone is Hitler, no one is. When every Republican is impeachable, the word loses its meaning. By pushing this too hard, the Democrats risk turning Noem into a martyr. Americans love an underdog, and Americans hate a bully. When the full force of the national media, the Democratic leadership, and the deep state machinery descends on one woman in South Dakota, it starts to look like bullying. It starts to look like a pile-on. And paradoxically, it might save her. If they had just let her fade away, she might have lost relevance on her own. But by attacking her, they are validating her importance. They are saying, she matters. She is a threat. And if she is a threat to them, the voters start thinking, maybe she's good for us. This is the backfire effect. And we are seeing it play out in real time. We need to go deeper. We need to talk about who is actually funding and organizing this push. Impeachment doesn't just happen. It costs money. Lawyers cost millions. PR firms cost millions. Private investigators cost millions. Who is paying for the push to impeach Noem? Follow the money. If you dig into the organizations amplifying these calls, you will find the same network of donors that funds the open border initiatives. You will find the dark money groups that specialize in democracy protection, which is Orwellian code for opposition removal. They are not operating in South Dakota because they care about the integrity of the Pierre State House. They couldn't find Pierre on a map. They are operating there because South Dakota is a testing ground. If they can take down a high-profile MAGA governor in a deep red state using ethics as a Trojan horse, they prove that the model works. Then, they export it. They will take that model to Texas. They will take it to Tennessee. They will take it to wherever resistance exists. This is a colonization of state politics by national interests. And Noem? She's just the test subject. She is the canary in the coal mine. If the canary dies, they know the gas is working. Now, let's bring the king back onto the board. Donald Trump. How does he fit into this ultimatum? Impeach Noem if Trump doesn't fire DHS secretary. This puts Trump in a bind. If he intervenes to save Noem, he spends political capital. He gets dragged into a state fight. If he ignores it, he loses a loyalist. But Trump understands leverage better than anyone. He knows that this ultimatum is a sign of weakness from the Democrats. They are bargaining. You don't bargain if you are winning. If you are winning, you just conquer. You only bargain when you are afraid of what comes next. They are afraid of the DHS collapse. So Trump's move here, and pay attention, because this is what you'll see in the coming weeks, will be to escalate. He won't just defend Noem. He will use the attack on her to highlight the DHS failure. He will say, "Look at what they are doing. They are spending all their time trying to destroy Governor, while the border is wide open, while terrorists are crossing, while fentanyl is killing our kids." He will use their energy against them. Judo. The Noem trap was meant to catch Trump. But it might just end up catching the people who said it. We are only halfway down the rabbit hole. You now understand the setup. You understand the trap. You understand the players. But what happens next is the terrifying part. The timeline isn't dictated by the South Dakota legislature. It isn't dictated by the evidence. It is dictated by the news cycle of the border. We have obtained, through observation of the patterns, the shadow schedule. Look at the dates. Next month, intelligence reports indicate a massive surge at the southern border. A caravan, fueled by seasonal shifts and cartel logistics, is timed to hit Eagle Pass and San Diego. It will be a visual disaster for the Biden administration. It will be the kind of footage that loses elections. Now, look at the bottom line. The proposed schedule for the investigation and potential hearings into Kristi Noem. They align perfectly. This isn't a coincidence. This is a counter-programming strategy. They know the border images are coming. They know they can't stop the migrants. So, they have to stop your attention. They need a spectacle. They need a trial. They need a red state villain to plaster on the screen so that when you turn on the TV, you don't see the invasion of your country. You see the prosecution of a governor. It is the oldest magician's trick in the book. Watch the left hand so you don't see what the right hand is doing. But the right hand is stealing your country. We need to talk about process crimes. This is a term you need to know. In the old days, you went to jail because you robbed a bank. You committed a crime, and then the process caught you. Today, the process is the punishment. The goal of this push against Noem isn't necessarily to remove her. Removal is hard. It requires a supermajority. It requires localized political suicide for Republicans in South Dakota. No, the goal isn't the verdict. The goal is the trial. If they can tie her up in depositions for 6 months. If they can force her to spend millions on legal defense. If they can leak one embarrassing text message every Friday afternoon. Then they have neutralized her. They have taken a night off the board without ever actually capturing it. They just glued it to the square. This is exactly what they are doing to Trump. And now, they are standardizing the model. They are franchising it. The lawfare model. Coming soon to a governor near you. Think about the precedent this sets. If the Democratic leadership in Washington can dictate the impeachment schedule of a Republican governor in the Great Plains by leveraging a federal cabinet secretary, federalism is dead. The states are no longer laboratories of democracy. They are just branch offices of the regime. And if you think they'll stop with Noem, you haven't been paying attention. She is the test case. If the public accepts this, if you accept this, then next year, it will be Sanders in Arkansas. It will be Reynolds in Iowa. They are stress testing the system to see how much interference the American people will tolerate. How do they get away with it? How do they convince millions of people that a book tour controversy is more important than a collapsed border? They use the accepted truth machine. Here is the playbook they are running on Noem right now. I call it the echo chamber cascade. Stage 1, the seed. A partisan blog or a nonprofit research group releases a hit piece. It's small. It's obscure. Stage 2, the amplification. A mid-tier outlet picks it up. Reports circulate that. Stage 3. The validation. The major networks, CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, report on the report. They don't verify the facts. They verify the controversy. The headline reads, Governor Noem faces growing questions. Stage 4. The political action. Democratic leadership steps in. They wave the New York Times article and say, "We must investigate these serious allegations." See what happened? They created the source, amplified the source, and then used the source to justify political violence. It is a closed loop. A snake eating its own tail. And in the middle of that loop is the truth. Suffocating. They are trying to construct a reality where Kristi Noem is a monster, and the DHS secretary is a misunderstood public servant doing his best. But here is the glitch in their machine. They forgot about you. They are running a 2012 playbook in a 2024 world. In 2012, this would have worked. Mitt Romney would have folded. The establishment Republicans would have apologized. The media would have declared victory. But something broke in 2016, and it shattered completely in 2020. The American public stopped buying the product. You look at the push to impeach Noem, and you don't see accountability. You see desperation. You see a system that is terrified of the populist right. Why are they terrified? Because the populist right is the only force in American politics that questions the funding. Noem questioned the funding. She questioned the NGOs. She questioned why taxpayer money was facilitating the invasion of her own country. And the moment you touch the money, the lasers come out. The glitch is that their attacks are having the opposite effect. Every time they attack Noem, her base rallies. Every time they attack Trump, his poll numbers go up. Why? Because you have realized that the enemy of your enemy is your friend. If the media complex, the Democratic leadership, and the DHS bureaucracy all hate the same person, that person must be doing something right. They have weaponized their own unlikability. They are so despised by the average American that their condemnation has become an endorsement. Let's zoom out. Way out. This isn't about a dog. It isn't about a governor. It isn't even about the border, really. This is about consent. For 50 years, the ruling class in Washington governed by manufacturing consent. They told you what to care about, and you cared about it. They told you who the bad guys were, and you booed. But that mechanism is broken. They can no longer manufacture consent. So now, they have to manufacture compliance. Do you see the difference? Consent is when you agree. Compliance is when you obey because you are afraid. The push to impeach Noem is an act of terror, political terror. It is designed to induce compliance in the Republican Party. It is designed to make them afraid to step out of line. Fire the DHS secretary? We will destroy your VP pick. Close the border? We will sue your state. Question the election? We will disbar your lawyers. It is governance by blackmail. But blackmail only works if you have shame. And blackmail only works if you are alone. The populist movement, the movement that Noem, Trump, and you are a part of, is realizing that they cannot blackmail millions of people. They can take out one leader. They can maybe take out two. But they cannot take out a movement that has decided to stop playing by their rules. This is the turning point. The Democrats made a fatal calculation error with this ultimatum. By explicitly linking the Noem impeachment to the DHS firing, they revealed the game. They showed their hand. They admitted that it's all a transaction. And once you see it as a transaction, the moral high ground evaporates. They aren't the defenders of democracy. They are just horse traders. And they are trading a sick horse. Skepticism is your shield. When you see the headlines next week, and they're coming, screaming about Noem, I want you to laugh. Don't get angry. Laugh. Laugh because you know why they are doing it. Laugh because you see the strings. Laugh because you know that they are panicked. A confident regime doesn't need to impeach a governor to save a secretary. A confident regime runs on its record. This is the flailing of a dying paradigm. They are trying to claw back control, but sand is slipping through their fingers. The Democratic turn here isn't about the Democratic Party. It's about democracy, small d. It's about the people looking at the elites and saying, "No, no, we won't trade. No, we won't sacrifice our leaders. No, we won't accept your open border." So how does this end? There are two paths. Path 1, the Republicans fold. They get scared. They back off the DHS secretary. They leave Noem to the wolves. If this happens, the establishment wins for another decade. The border remains open. The decline accelerates. Path 2, the double down. Trump and the leadership call the bluff. They say, "Go ahead. Try to impeach her. We will make every hearing a televised debate on the border crisis. We will put you on trial." If they choose Path 2, the trap backfires. The Noem impeachment becomes the platform that exposes the DHS failures to the entire world. I believe we are heading for Path 2. Why? Because the pain is too real. The crisis is too visible. You cannot spin your way out of a reality that people are seeing in their own backyards. The Noem Ultimatum is going to be remembered as the moment the establishment overplayed its hand. It will be the moment they tried to checkmate the movement, only to realize they left their own king exposed. Now, I have a job for you. The media relies on your silence. They rely on you scrolling past, shaking your head, and moving on. Don't give them that satisfaction. I want you to do 3 things right now to break their algorithm. 1. Share this video. Send it to one person who only watches cable news. Red pill them on the real game being played. 2. Comment below. I want you to type one word. Leverage. Let them know that we see the trade. Let them know we know about the ultimatum. 3. Subscribe. We are building a community here that prizes truth over narrative. They are going to try to suppress this channel. They are going to try to suppress this story. Your subscription is the only vote that counts on this platform. The push to impeach Kristi Noem isn't the end of her story. It might just be the beginning of the end for the people trying to destroy her. Stay curious. Stay skeptical. And most importantly, stay loud. I'll see you in the comments.